Deep within the vast, untamed Adirondack Mountains lay the forgotten lake. Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, their voices heavy with fear and fascination. It was a place steeped in unsettling tales of strange occurrences and disappearances. Some spoke of eerie lights flickering across the water's surface. Others told of blood-curdling screams echoing through the stillness. The origins of these stories remained shrouded in mystery. But one thing was certain. The forgotten lake held a dark and unsettling presence. It was a place where reality itself felt thin and malleable, and it was here that four friends would unwittingly step into a nightmare. The old Jeep rumbled along the dirt road, its headlights cutting through the oppressive darkness that had fallen over the Adirondacks. Inside, four friends, Mark, Jessica, Chris and Emily, laughed and joked, their voices a stark contrast to the unnerving silence of the surrounding woods. They were young, their spirits high with the thrill of adventure and the promise of a weekend escape from the mundane. They had planned this trip for weeks, eager to experience the raw beauty of the Adirondacks in the heart of autumn. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the air grew noticeably colder, a biting wind whistling through the trees, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The forest seemed to press in on them, the towering pines appearing more like menacing giants in the fading light.
Are we lost?
Jessica asked, her voice betraying a hint of unease. It was a question that hung heavy in the air, a testament to the growing sense of isolation that had settled over them. The friends set up camp as dusk painted the sky in hues of purple and orange. A fire crackled merrily in the deepening twilight, casting dancing shadows that stretched and twisted, taking on monstrous forms in their peripheral vision. Yet, despite the warmth of the flames and the camaraderie of their shared adventure, an undeniable sense of unease lingered in the air. The silence of the woods was almost absolute, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the mournful cry of an owl. It was a silence that felt heavy, almost expectant, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. As the fire died down to embers, they huddled closer, sharing stories and ghost stories in hushed tones. But their laughter felt forced, a frail defense against the growing chill that seemed to emanate from the depths of the surrounding woods.
Hey guys, look at this.
It was Mark who first noticed the tracks, large, almost paw-like prints pressed deeply into the soft earth just beyond the perimeter of their campsite. They were unlike anything he had seen before, too large for a dog, too strangely shaped for any wildcat he could identify. The first night was the longest. Sleep came in fitful bursts punctuated by strange dreams and the unsettling feeling of being watched. They huddled around the remnants of their fire, their faces pale in the flickering light.
I swear I saw something moving in the woods, right at the edge of our campsite.
Emily, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination, swore she saw something moving in the woods at the edge of their campsite. A fleeting glimpse of a dark shape, too large to be human, that vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Then a light. It flickered across the surface of the lake, a faint, ethereal glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. At first they dismissed it as a trick of the light, a figment of their overactive imaginations, but as they watched, mesmerized, it grew in intensity, illuminating the water with an unnatural radiance. And then they saw it. A figure, small and childlike, silhouetted against the eerie glow beneath the water's surface. Its eyes, wide and luminous, seemed to stare directly at them, filled with a chilling intensity that sent shivers down their spines. S5. Morning arrived, pale and unwelcome. The events of the previous night hung over them like a shroud, casting a pall over the once beautiful scenery. They tried to convince themselves it had all been a collective hallucination, a trick of the moonlight and their own exhaustion.
But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, a gnawing sense of unease that refused to be silenced.
They decided to pack up camp, their earlier enthusiasm replaced by a collective desire to put as much distance between themselves and the lake as possible. It was Chris who stumbled upon the sign.
Half hidden by overgrown vines and partially obscured by layers of peeling paint, it was barely visible.
They brushed aside the foliage, their blood running cold as they deciphered the faded words.
Camp Arawak, permanently closed. Danger, no swimming, multiple drownings.
The sign, a chilling relic of a forgotten tragedy, confirmed their worst fears. The forgotten lake wasn't just unsettling, it was dangerous. Section 6. The veil thinned. Despite their growing fear, something compelled them to stay. Perhaps it was a morbid curiosity, a desire to understand the darkness that clung to the lake. Or maybe it was something more insidious, a pull from the lake itself, drawing them deeper into its web of secrets. They spent the day exploring the woods surrounding the lake, searching for any remnants of the ill-fated Camp Arawak. The forest seemed to close in on them, the air thick with an oppressive humidity that made it difficult to breathe. They found the ruins of the camp on a small rise overlooking the lake. Crumbling cabins, their windows like vacant eyes, stared out at them. A rusted swing set creaked eerily in the breeze, its melancholic melody a haunting reminder of the children who once laughed and played within its shadow. As dusk approached, the air grew heavy, charged with a palpable sense of dread. The forest seemed to come alive with unseen eyes watching their every move, whispering voices carried on the wind. The veil between the real and the supernatural felt perilously thin. Section 7. Spectres of the Depths. The second night was a symphony of terror. The unearthly glow returned, this time brighter, pulsing with a malevolent energy that seemed to vibrate in their very bones. Shapes moved beneath the water's surface, no longer a solitary figure, but a multitude of forms, their movements growing more frantic, more desperate. And then they rose. From the depths of the lake, figures emerged, their bodies pale and translucent, their eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly luminescence. They moved with an unnatural grace, their limbs elongated, their fingers tipped with long, sharp claws. Silently, they glided towards the shore, their eyes fixed on the terrified friends. The air crackled with energy, the very fabric of reality seeming to warp and distort around them. It was then that they knew, with a certainty that chilled them to their very core, that they were not alone.
You're never alone here.
Section 8. Flight through the forest. Panic seized them. They scrambled to their feet, their flight instinct kicking in with primal intensity. The figures were getting closer, their movements growing more frantic, their eyes burning with an unholy light.
We need to get out of here now.
They ran through the woods, their breath catching in their throats, branches whipping at their faces, their only thought to escape the nightmare that had ensnared them. The forest seemed to conspire against them, the trees closing ranks, their gnarled branches reaching out like grasping claws determined to impede their progress.
Keep running, don't look back!
They could hear the figures behind them, their footsteps soundless, their presence a palpable wave of cold dread that washed over them. They burst out of the tree line, their lungs burning, their legs screaming for respite.
The jeep, we're almost there.
Their jeep, their only salvation. Mark fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking uncontrollably.
Hurry, Mark, they're right behind us.
The engine sputtered, coughed, and then roared to life. They didn't look back. Section 9. The lake's unquiet grip. They didn't speak as they drove, the silence broken only by their ragged breaths. The headlights illuminated the road ahead, a tunnel of light in the darkness. As they crossed the county line, dawn painted the sky a pale yellow. They pulled over, trembling with exhaustion and terror. They noticed the damage. Long, deep scratches ran the length of the jeep's side. The metal was twisted and dented. They never returned to the forgotten lake. But the lake was not finished with them. They were haunted by nightmares, plagued by visions of glowing eyes. The lake had claimed a part of them. The forgotten lake remained, a silent sentinel in the heart of the Adirondacks. a place where the veil between our world and the next was thin,